You may recall about a month ago we heard that they were going to cut, 2,450 jobs, if I remember the exact number, over at Warren. So this is a relatively small cut by comparison, but it just continues to say that Stellantis is in trouble.
Have you ever thought about why Jeep and Ram workers seem to be leaving their jobs more quickly than those from any other brand? Hold on tight, because the reasons for this mass departure are shocking, and they have nothing to do with a bigger paycheck. We're going to get into the messy world of car sales, where employees are unhappy because of money problems, changes in the industry, and communication problems between management and staff, and this will have an effect on the whole business. What's going on? Everyone knows that Stellantis charges a lot for their cars. They are killing themselves with this new plan though. Car salespeople have to deal with a financial roller coaster where high commissions one month and abysmal low commissions the next. They also have to try to sell more expensive cars that most buyers won't even touch with a 10-foot pole. It's not a surprise that a lot of people are leaving their jobs because the atmosphere is more like a brutal battle than a friendly team setting. Stellantis is the parent company of Jeep and Ram. It is facing its own problems, such as falling income and problems with the government. What does that mean for the people on the front lines? Well, some of them are going on their own, and some are being forced to. How bad is it? Just before we talk about how this affects the assembly line, let's talk about how the job market for car salespeople has become very tough financially, especially when compared to low-skilled jobs like fast food. Think about it, a lot of car salespeople get paid by commission, which means that their income can change a lot based on how many cars they sell. They can lose a lot of money when business is slow, which can make it hard for them to make ends meet. On average, people who sell cars might make $50,000 a year, but wait, that number changes a lot depending on how well each employee does and how well the company does as a whole. It is shocking to learn that many sellers don't even make enough to live on. Some make less than jobs that don't require as many skills or as much work. One thing this case really shows is how hard commission-based systems can be, especially when a salesperson's pay rests on how many cars they sell. Actually, studies reveal that a shocking 40% of car salespeople say they make less than $30,000 a year when times are tough. That's not even close to what a family of 4 needs to live in the US, where the poverty line is. Now, let's talk about that crazy income swing. It's true that selling expensive cars could bring in big fees, but there's also a bad side. The normal cost of a new car these days is around $50,000. This could be good and bad at the same time. When business is great, fees can look very good, but when the market goes down or stock runs out, that can really hurt. Imagine that a seller might make $5,000 selling an expensive car during busy sales months, but during slow months, that same sale might bring in only $1,000 or even less. Also, prices have gone through the roof, which is a huge problem for both buyers and sellers. Because the supply chain has been having trouble, companies are pushing those high-end models and getting bigger profit gains. This may look good for the salespeople, but it leaves customers with choices that can be really painful to think about. Take models like the Grand Cherokee or the Jeep Gladiator Mojave. Their prices have gone through the roof, going over $70,000. That really hurts the wallet of anyone. Since the prices of new cars are going through the roof, many people can't afford to buy one. Actually, people spent $3.5 billion more on cars in the first quarter of 23 than they did in the same quarter the previous year. But it's kind of like a mixed win, because the rise in spending hasn't helped people who really want to buy a new car. In 22, the average price of a new car in Canada was just under $50,000. So where do a lot of people go when they can't afford a new car? You got it, used cars. The really bad news is that prices for used cars are also going up because there aren't many available and people want them. Year over year, they've gone up by almost 20%. That makes it hard for people with less money who are already having a hard time finding something they can afford. Unfortunately, the lack of cheap cars forces many people who want to buy one into dangerous financial deals, or gives them no choice at all. How did we get here? Stellantis is having a rough time financially. This isn't just a small problem, it's a big drop that's making people sit up and take notice. The company's net income dropped by an amazing 48% in the first half of 2024 to $6.2 billion. To give you an idea of what that means, during the same time last year, earnings were $12.7 billion. That's a huge drop. Not only is this drop a hassle, but it also raises important questions about how Stellantis is running their business and whether their market tactics are right. To make matters worse, net sales dropped by 14%, reaching $94.101 billion. It also hurt the adjusted operating income margin, which fell to 10%. This is a big drop from the returns we had in previous years. This is mostly because we sold fewer goods, and the mix wasn't very good. Stellantis' market share in the US also dropped from 10.4% to 8.5%. This isn't just a small defeat, it shows a worrying loss of competitive edge, especially since there are now strong new players in the electric car game and customer tastes are changing all the time. Stellantis is facing a lot of tough problems in the market right now, which is affecting its business and ability to make money. There are more competitors in the car industry now than ever before. Stellantis is struggling to stay ahead of strong rivals in the electric vehicle market. But how hard is it really? Let's break it down. Some very strong people are up against Stellantis. Just think about how well-known brands like Ford and General Motors are competing for market share, while up-and-coming EV brands like Tesla and BYD are also trying to get a piece of the action. Not only are these rivals making waves, they're also setting the bar for new ideas, cutting-edge technology, and great performance. Stellantis is also having a hard time with their supplies, which is another problem that comes up in addition to the competition. As of March 31, 2024, the company had about 1.3 million cars that hadn't been sold. That's a huge amount of stock just sitting there. Not only does this buildup of cars waste valuable capital, but it also causes shops to offer more deals and discounts on earlier models in order to move them. A lot of people in the National Dealer Council have said bad things about Stellantis' inventory management. They pointed out that while sales temporarily went up by 21% in August 2024, this was only seen as a short-term fix and not a long-term answer to the bigger problems. Let's break it down together. Don't lie about the numbers. Even though Stellantis' sales have been going up lately, the future doesn't look very good for them. As a stark contrast to the same time period in 2023, the company recorded a 14% drop in net sales for the first half of 24. This drop was caused by fewer sales and a mix of products that didn't work well together. Carlos Tavares, CEO of Stellantis, said that the company didn't do as well as they thought they would. He blamed both outside forces from the industry and problems inside the company. Dealers are getting angry and stressing that Stellantis needs to make smart investments to fix its long-term market share problems. Reports say that a lot of cars have been sitting on store lots for more than 600 days without being sold. That's very different from the normal 50 days in the market. This huge pile not only raises the cost of keeping, but it also keeps retailers from using cash for important business costs or to buy new goods. Stellantis' average transaction prices are 120 to 125% higher than those of rival automakers. This makes it hard for sellers to sell their old stock. Stellantis has tried lowering the number of cars that are given to shops in order to deal with this problem, but this approach isn't working and is making things difficult between the company and its partners. They're under a lot of pressure to take in new vehicles, even though they're having a hard time selling the ones they already have. Imagine this: as of March 31st, 2024, Stellantis recorded a mind-boggling 1.4 million units in new car inventory. Compared to previous years, that's a big jump. It's also in line with larger trends in the industry, as total US car stocks rose to about 2.4 million units. To make things even worse, buyers are being squeezed by rising interest rates, which makes buying a car more expensive. This makes sales even less likely and makes the whole situation more difficult. Employee happiness is also going down because sales are going down, and inventory is always growing. There have been rumors of possible cuts and reorganizations, which has made people worry about their job stability. Uncertainty like this can make workers lose faith in their jobs and create a bad atmosphere at work. And it's not just the workers who are worried. Dealers are also upset with how management is treating these important problems. To step back, Stellantis' problems are caused by a number of linked economic issues. It's getting harder for people to buy new cars because of high prices and rising interest rates, which is a big problem. When the cost of finance goes up, demand normally goes down, which puts pressure on sales performance. Stellantis has had to rethink how it sells its cars and handles its stock because of the current economic situation. It's time for a new plan. We know that, but that's only the beginning. Let's talk about the specifics. Stellantis' worries are getting worse. Stellantis is currently being closely watched by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, which is a very important government agency. This attention is because of scary safety worries about engine stalling in some of its cars. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration has started an investigation that will look into about 150,000 vehicles, focusing on models like the 2019 to 2023 Ram 1500, the 2019 to 2023 Jeep Wrangler, and the 2019 to 2022 Jeep Wagoneer. Owners have said it's scary when these cars stall out of the blue while they're moving, especially when they're going slowly. That is a very big safety risk. It would be terrible to be moving and suddenly lose power. To make things even worse, some people say that these cars' emergency brakes activate automatically when they stall, which can put drivers in a dangerous position and even cause accidents. What does the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration do if they find a problem? Stellantis might be in for some pretty bad luck. Recalls of a lot of products could be in the works, which can be very expensive and hurt the brand's image in a big way. Recalls have been known to cause a 30% drop in sales for the models that are affected, and the effects can last for a long time. This case really shows how important it is for Stellantis to follow the rules and put safety first if they want to keep customers trusting them. Besides that, the move toward electric cars has both pros and cons for Stellantis. While there is a lot of room for growth in the EV market, Stellantis is falling behind its more forward-thinking competitors in terms of both new ideas and market share. To catch up to leaders like Tesla, Stellantis will have to put a lot of money into EV technology and infrastructure, while also fixing problems with its current business. There are big plans for the company. They want to release 20 new goods in 24, some of which will be electric. That being said, these projects come with big costs that are hard for the company to handle since its money is already tight. Operations that don't work well are another problem for Stellantis. There is too much stock because of issues like production capacity gaps and bad inventory management, which has cost the company sales possibilities. The company is also less stable because executives have been fired and jobs have been cut because of the constant focus on short-term income. What does it mean? When car companies have a lot of employees leave, it can cause a lot of financial problems that can stop them from making money right away and in the long run. The effect of change isn't just a small bothersomeness, it's a major problem that affects many parts of how the store works. First, let's talk about hiring costs, which are one of the most obvious and direct costs. There are a lot of costs that come with hiring new people, like posting job openings, holding interviews, and checking their backgrounds. Around 67% of cars in some shops are traded in every year, so these costs can add up fast. A study from the National Automobile Dealers Association says that per new job, the average shop spends more than $10,000. When you think about how the average length of service for sales staff has dropped from 3.8% in 2011 to 2.4% today, you can see how scary this situation really is. Another big cost that shops have to pay for is hiring and teaching new staff. It can cost around $10,000 to bring a new employee on board. This includes the cost of training programs, tools, and the time that existing employees spend teaching the new hire. When there is a lot of employee change, however, shops often spend a lot of money on training without getting a stable staff in return. According to research, output could drop by 20 to 30% during the hiring process. This makes things even more difficult. Having skilled salespeople leave has a big effect on how customers feel about the business. These experienced workers build strong bonds with customers, which is important for getting them to buy from you again and give you good recommendations. Dealerships could lose more than just their skills if they leave. They could also lose the trust and relationship they have made with them. Studies show that high change in the business as a whole could cost billions of dollars every year in lost customer trust and happiness. Also, total output goes down when there is a lot of employee change. It takes time for new employees to learn their jobs and how the business works. It's common for productivity to drop during this phase because new employees aren't fully up to speed on their jobs yet. Unfortunately, this drop can make it very hard for the store to meet its sales goals and keep current customers happy. When there is change, the impacts keep going. People who are still working often have to pick up the slack, which can cause them to have more work to do and even stress. This situation makes things stressful, which makes it easier for problems with turnover to get out of hand. This creates a circle that is hard for businesses to break out of. In the long run, high change rates can hurt a dealership's ability to make money and run its business efficiently. It's important for management to step up and put in place plans to keep employees from leaving, which will make the workplace more safe and productive. But high change has effects on more than just the bottom line. It also has a big effect on how teams work together together in stores. People who stay behind can lose motivation when people leave a lot. Watching friends leave can make people worry about their own job security, which can make them lose interest in their work and be unhappy with it. A lot of people leaving a company can bring down mood by about 25% according to research. Just how do people in Stellantis get jobs? In a sales-driven workplace, it's important for teams to work together as a single body. High change messes up these established working ties, which makes it hard for teams to get things done quickly. New employees may have trouble fitting in with current groups, which can make it harder to communicate and work as a team. Also, workers with a lot of experience know a lot about what customers want, how to sell, and how the business works. When they leave, a lot of historical knowledge is lost, which makes it harder to train new employees and lowers the general success of the dealer. When new team members are added, things can sometimes get worse. When people with different working styles disagree, it can cause arguments that weaken the team's unity and make the environment so bad that people want to leave. This is especially true when dealing with customers. A stable team is helpful in many ways. Customers expect the same level of service every time they visit, but high change can make that hard to achieve. Customers don't like having to deal with new salespeople every time they come in, or having to say what they want over and over again. Auto shops that have a lot of staff change lose money, but they also lose customers and employees who work well together. Dealing with these problems is necessary to create a productive workplace that keeps employees and improves the dealership's general performance. For now, the UAW is watching their every move, so they need to do this. What's going on with the assembly line? A big deal was recently made between the UAW and Stellantis that offered great perks for workers. We're talking about real pay rises and a promise to put money back into American factories. That sounds great, right? But there's a catch. Even though these are good signs, UAW locals have made several complaints against Stellantis, alleging breach of contract and growing unhappiness. Workers have raised red flags about vows that were not kept about job security and production goals. This makes Stellantis' dependability as a workplace very questionable. There have been growing problems between the UAW and Stellantis management, mainly over the promises made about production at different sites. People are very angry about the Belvedere assembly plant, which was shut down earlier this year. During talks, Stellantis told the UAW that this plant would restart, but they haven't kept their word. This breach of trust affects more than just the company. It also affects job security across the area, and workers are worried about their future for good reason. UAW President Sean Fain hasn't been quiet. He's made it clear that Stellantis needs to keep the promises it has made. He said, "This company made a promise to auto workers at Stellantis in our union contract, and we intend to fully enforce that promise." His words show that there is a growing rift between workers and management at Stellantis. Things are getting so bad that workers are preparing for possible strikes if their concerns aren't addressed. All of these problems, Stellantis' money problems, and its tense relationship with the UAW are very worrying. These problems could make it hard for the company to run in the future and keep its employees stable. How these things go will depend a lot on how labor and management talk to each other. Also, let's not forget that the company is under pressure from rivals who are making quick progress in areas like electric vehicles and being environmentally friendly. Stellantis is in a tough fight for its future with all of these problems. How they deal with these problems will be very important to their comeback attempts. Things don't get worse when you think they can't. Stellantis recently said that it would be letting go of a lot of workers, mostly at the Ram Truck Company in Warren, Michigan. As production of the older Ram 1500 Classic model winds down, the company plans to let go of up to 2,450 workers. This choice is part of a larger plan to cut costs because sales are falling and production isn't working as well as it could. It is possible that the cuts will start as early as October 8, 2024. There will be one less shift at the Warren Truck Assembly Plant instead of two, which is another sign that production will be lower. Stellantis' main source of earnings, sales in North America, have been slow, which is why this change is happening. The company's net profits dropped by almost 50% in the first half of 24, which meant that they had to cut costs right away. There are a lot of people losing their jobs because Stellantis is focusing on a new generation of the Ram 1500 that came out in 2018. This is because the Ram 1500 Classic is no longer being made, but there has been no news about a straight replacement for the Classic model. This has made workers and local local officials worry about job security and the future of the plant. Concerns have been raised by the United Auto Workers Union about the possibility of moving production to other places such as Mexico. The union covers about 3,700 workers at the Warren plant. Because they were laid off, the affected workers will get extra jobless payments for 52 weeks, as well as an extra year of help with transitioning and 2 years of health insurance. Stellantis losses are a sign of problems in the auto industry that have been going on for a while, like fewer people buying cars, which has caused companies to cut jobs and slow down production. Automakers have had to rethink their business plans because of tougher competition and market forces. As companies think about moving output to cheaper areas, worries about the long-term survival of US industrial jobs grow. But if Stellantis is this bad, it makes sense to wonder what the rest of the business is like. The other people. The car industry is currently dealing with problems that affect more than just one shop. One big problem is the lack of workers, which is made worse by slow population growth and a lot of people retiring. If things keep going the way they are, worker gaps could last until 2030, which will make it harder for businesses to find suitable candidates. Also, the way people connect with businesses is changing because of changes in how people act. A lot of people these days do a lot more study on cars online before they even go to a store. Because of this trend, salespeople don't have as much time to talk to potential buyers face to face. In fact, customers only spend about 4 hours at a store on average, compared to longer visits in the past. There are some big differences between Stellantis' problems and those of rivals like Ford, GM, and Toyota, especially when it comes to how to keep employees and how to change the market. With a shocking 67% turnover rate, Stellantis is under a lot more pressure than its rivals, many of whom have successfully put in place effective strategies to keep employees, which has led to lower turnover. For instance, Ford has been able to lower its unemployment rate by putting in place programs that make employees more interested in their jobs. Stellantis is having a hard time adapting to a changing market. Ford and GM, on the other hand, have been able to change their sales strategies and adopt digital selling solutions more quickly. Stellantis has been having recent financial problems, including big drops in income and market share. This is very different from their competitors, who have been able to keep their performance more stable despite similar market pressures. There are some smart ways that some automakers have dealt with these problems through planned efforts that Stellantis and its stores could learn from. Companies that put a lot of effort into thorough training programs for new employees tend to keep more of them. When workers get good training, they feel more capable and sure of their jobs. One example is that Toyota's dedication to ongoing learning is linked to happier employees. Competitors that offer fair pay and rewards designed to improve employee performance also tend to keep good employees longer. Rather than making things competitive, giving bonuses for meeting team goals encourages people to work together. Employee happiness is also higher at companies that focus on making the workplace welcoming and helpful for everyone. Mentorship programs and other similar programs can help new and experienced team members get to know each other. Stellantis can try to keep its employees longer and do a better job overall as it deals with the tougher car market by learning from what other companies have done that has worked in the past. But what do you think about this? Say what you think in the comments. Thanks for seeing. The next video will be with you.